Thank you. All right, can you guys hear me? Good. All right, sorry we had about a minute, little technical difficulty here. We have a great video that we may not be able to get running for you guys. We're going to do our best and get around that. Before I get started with my presentation, I want to do a few thank yous. I know sometimes these things get rushed and you think this is really important. I want to thank Nick Clayton and the NSCA. I think they do a great job of putting these events on, and I think they create a great lineup of speakers and presenters for you guys. So I want to thank them. I want to thank my team. That's my trainers and my operations gal back at our studio in Las Vegas. I call them my team. They work elbow to elbow with me every day on our training floor. And again, they work with me, not for me. Inspired by the Simon Sinek book, Start With Your Why. You know, part of my why is to teach, to lead, to share with others so that I can provide for those closest that I love. That's my beautiful wife, Judy, and my son, Sky. And then most importantly, I want to thank you guys for your time. So I'm hoping in the next 48 minutes that I can give you guys some value. Time is our most precious asset. Once you give it up, you never get it back. So I'm hoping that you walk out of here, that I can give you some things that you can implement on Monday, maybe create you to some thought, you know, some things of thinking, but added some value to your time. So I appreciate you guys for coming out. All right, so they always say when you present, start with your story. My story with strength and conditioning started over 30 years ago. Yes, I am old. Not blessed with height and really this big size. My sports were football and wrestling. So what I was blessed with was a great work ethic from my parents. And that work ethic translated well into the weight room. It served me well. And after school, when there was no longer a football field and a wrestling mat, bodybuilding became that vehicle for me. This picture, oh God, it was such a long time ago, but this picture was taken in 1998, as actually I won the Bev Francis Atlantic States. 2 weeks later, I would go on to win the light heavyweight, the junior nationals. That would be the pinnacle of my amateur bodybuilding career, and actually be the last time I'd walk on the stage as a competitive bodybuilder. But in the 90s, when I was in this passion of bodybuilding, is when my professional career as a trainer started. And that's when I kind of started just wanting to learn really how the body moves and strength and conditioning and training. It was actually at the NSCA Nationals in 2000. I listened to this guy, you guys may have heard of him, Juan Carlos Santana, talk about this thing called functional training. And you know, then it was a few years later where I would listen to a gentleman named Greg Cook. And you know, we use the FMS at our studio in Las Vegas. I'm not here to promote or tell you need to do that. Hopefully at an NSCA event, we can all agree that you need to use some type of diagnostic or assessment tool when you're working with other people. But more importantly, Gray inspired me to start to really just to think. Right? I didn't just take everything that people told me. I listened, I started to learn, and I really started to think about things going on. He's actually presenting right over there. He was my master RKC, Mr. Brett Jones, but Brett was my master RKC who taught me how to swing, snatch, press, get up from the ground with the kettlebell. And again, it was a huge inspiration to me because then I started to get into just the way the body moves. Gentlemen in this room right now, Mr. Josh Henkin and Randy Hetrick, these guys were great innovators and really inspired me in my fitness career because not only did they just create really cool tools, but they started to really give me some great education behind it. So these are a few people, a few names that have been a big influence in my career in the last 25 years. But the last 5 years of my business, I've spent extensively studying the intricacies of running a small business. More importantly, I've learned that in business, you're going to be measured by your success, by the systems you implement and or lack of, and your ability to consistently use them. See, I think it's one of the perils. It's a trap. A lot of us, we fall into that after we do this thing, we get into this fitness thing that we love, and we open up a gym, we wake up a year, 2 years, and realize we're running a business. Right? That's one of those traps that people realize. So, and really it's like how to learn, how to leverage other people's time. Because for many of us, you want to make more, you end up just working harder. But there's going to be limits to that. So, you know, hopefully today I'm going to give you guys some strategies and give you guys some things that you'll be able to go back and implement. And again, just some things to think about in your daily practices. Full disclosure, up to about 3 years ago, in my business, I spent about 4 or 5 hours of my day training people privately, one-on-one, and then I do 2, possibly 3 hours of small group training. And then I would spend about an hour in marketing. For me, that may be writing for my blog. Then follow it up maybe about a half hour looking at financials. It could be a P&L, profit and loss statement, or some equipment I want to purchase, last month's cash flow, some projections. Then maybe a half hour working with one of my team members or some operations, writing up some programs, and then finish the day up with a success session, right? And that could be, again, that's a consultation, following up. It could either be meeting with somebody, emails, or phone calls. That's an 8 to 10 hour day. And I thought I was being very efficient in that manner. I mean, I literally had a grid for my day, very methodical with it. I'm going to go and tell you guys how that's the wrong way to approach it and how you can fall into some traps being inefficient with your time. One of those things is, it was a study in 2009 by Stanford. And what they did is they took a group, slightly over 100 people. And what they wanted to do was determine, is multitasking good? Right? Because everyone thought that was a skill we could actually, multitasking was one of those things people championed. They thought it was a positive. So they wanted to validate that. There we go. Sorry about that. So they wanted to validate that. So what they did is they took these people and divided them up into 2 groups. You had your high-level multitaskers and your low-level taskers. Okay? And what they did is they showed them sets of blue rectangles. Okay? They showed them the formation twice, and these blue rectangles were surrounded by either none, 2, 4, or 6 red rectangles. Now, in this experiment, they were instructed, stay with me, ignore the red surrounding, the blue surrounding, just look at the red in the center rectangles. Do not look at the surrounding blue. They would flash them twice. And all they had to do was determine, did the formation change? The high multitaskers, they failed miserably at this. They did really poor. The low multitaskers did really well in this. So the first hypothesis was, well, okay, maybe multitaskers are really good at storing information, right? And they have better memories. So then the second experiment, they said, to validate if they had some weight to that theory was, we're going to now flash them alphabetical letters, okay? And all they have to do is determine, is the letter repeated? So if they have good memories and if they can organize and store information. The high multitaskers, again, performed poorly on this. The low-level multitaskers performed very good on this. So now it was like, okay, the head researcher in this study, Dr. Clifford Nass, had a great quote. He said, multitaskers are suckers for irrelevancy. And what he was getting to is that they couldn't ignore things. They were easily distracted. So then the final theory was, well, okay, multitaskers, right? What they can do, they have the ability, they should, on the theory that multitasking is a skill we can get better at, to go from skill to skill. So meaning, they said, okay, I can do one thing, stop that, turn on another thing, do well at that, go back and forth, right? It's almost like us going from writing up an exercise program, then doing a sales call, then going to train somebody. So to see if that had some merit to it, what they then did is they said, okay, we're going to have them watch numbers, and all they have to do is verbalize. Is it odd or even? Then we're going to switch them over to alphabetical letters, and they just have to verbalize vowel or consonant. And we're going to switch them back and forth. You guys can probably guess where I'm going with this. The high-level multitaskers performed poorly on this. And the low-level multitaskers, they actually did pretty well. So what did that go and what did that tell us? What it showed us is that, again, multitasking, thinking you can go back and forth, is very, very poor. It's not something you want to be able to do. You want to focus on one thing and complete that, okay? And this study, again, if the study's not enough for you, let's go back to someone who's considered one of our great leaders, Mr. Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, what did he do in 1997 when he came back to Apple? When it was on the brink of going under, they were going to run out of cash in 6 months. What did he do? He narrowed their focus by, he actually eliminated products. He closed plants. He actually laid people off. In his biography written by Walter Isaacson, he's got a great quote, and he says, knowing what not to do is as important as knowing what to do. And now we all know the success, and we know the story about where Apple is today. So just a little food for thought on that one. In my presentation today, I'm going to break it up into a few different learning objectives. We're going to be talking about marketing, finance, operations, sales, and then I'm going to close out one of my personal favorites, employee development, something I think is really lacking in our industry. Throughout, again, I'm going to be bringing your attention to some key strategies. Write these down. These are gold. These are really important. They're going to come off sounding very simplistic, but their value is in their implementation. That's what is taking action, actually going into them. Now, there's a 600-pound gorilla in the room. There's going to be a huge assumption that I'm going to take, so I'm going to kind of put it out there right now. Everything we're going to be discussing is based on one huge assumption I'm making, that you can get results for people, right? That if you're in the business of getting people leaner, you can get people leaner. If you're in the business of getting them stronger, you can get them stronger. If you work with athletes, you can get them to jump higher, run faster. If you cannot do that, no marketing savvy is going to help you. I would just ask you to stop recording, stop writing discreetly, and I know it sounds crazy, but leave, because listen to one of the other great presenters, because I'm not going to talk about training right now, because that's very, very important. And that's an assumption a lot of people make, but make sure you can get people results, all right? All right. My slide's kind of a little out of order. This gets into a key strategy right here. Write this down. Assign each day of the week a theme. Now, going back to, again, I still train people every day on my training floor. Right? I'm going to spend 4 to 5 hours of training people or small groups. I'm talking about that time outside of training, right? When you're working on your business, not in your business, the marketing, the finance, and the operations. And this goes back to that theory I was just telling you about at 2009, that study at Stanford. But if that research at Stanford about multitasking doesn't do it for you, and I gave you my little story about Mr. Steve Jobs, I'm going to get you past this. This is that study. This gentleman, I'm trying to get you right here. This is Mr. Jack Dorsey. Jack is the CEO of Twitter and Square. All right, so this guy doesn't just run one successful company, he runs two. And by the close of the market today, this gentleman is responsible for over $25 billion of valuations of two companies. In an interview in 2011 with Techonomy magazine, it was that theory of doing one thing a day that Jack said that allowed him to run two successful companies. Everyone that works with him on his team, his executive teams will tell you, and Jack knows it, Mondays is management Mondays. Tuesdays is product development. Right. Wednesdays is going to be operations. Thursdays is going to be recruitment, company culture. Right. Fridays is going to get into partnerships and strategic alliances. If you're going to speak to Jack on one of those days, make sure you're in the right bucket, because he will not even discuss any of those things with you. So it gets you into that time where I'm saying when you're off your training floor, when you're working on your business, where you want to kind of focus on one task at a time. It will make you more efficient. All right, so let's get into marketing. I believe it was Josh speaking earlier, but I love conferences like this, where if you get someone to ask for a definition of functional training, you ask like 10 trainers, you get 10 different answers. One of those things. Well, if you ask 10 different marketing people to define marketing, you'll get 10 different marketing responses also. So what I did is I said, just so we're all on the same page, I want to get a definition from a marketing expert, Mr. Seth Godin. He has written 18 books on marketing, all bestsellers. And when he was asked about what is defined marketing, he said, well, advertising is a price you pay for an undifferentiated product for the masses. Marketing is the way you avoid paying that price. You avoid paying that price by designing a product worth talking about. Marketing is telling your story about how you get people results, like what we were saying earlier. So you have to be able to get people results. Advertising is, you have the same widget, and you're just going to buy my widget because my widget is cheaper. People, we have to realize we're in the business of changing behavior. We really are. This is a great book. If you get one book on behavior modification, Switch, How to Change Things When Change is Hard, written by the Heath brothers, Chip and Dan. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it, but they refer to this analogy about a man riding an elephant. And the gentleman who's steering the elephant represents the rational part of our brain. So when we sit and tell people all the benefits of exercise and things like that. But the elephant represents the emotional part. So like when that elephant wants to go somewhere, it's going to go where it wants to go. So if you get one book on behavior management, I definitely recommend picking this up. It's a great read. It's one of those things, too, you need to read it once a year. All right, so as I said, we need to sell to the emotional part of the brain, not the rational. We have to think about what keeps people up at night, what's really bothering them. Peel the onion back. People are typically outcome goal oriented. They come to you, they want to lose 20, 30 pounds. They want to be a size 6. They have a class to you, and they want to feel comfortable in front of people. What we need to do is to get them to embrace the process, right? Because us, as trainers or strength coaches, that's what we're all about, the process. We have to focus their energies there, right? Coming to you 3 times a week is a process. Swinging a kettlebell is a process. Pushing a sled, that's the process. Get them to love the process. They will get the outcome that they want. This gentleman up on here to the left, current Hall of Fame basketball coach from Duke University, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, a.k.a. Coach K, and the man to his right, future, I think, inductee, we can all say that, Hall of Fame basketball player, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was one of the last athletes who went right from high school right into the professional ranks, so he never went into college, never played in college. Coach K had gone on the record that he heavily, heavily recruited Kobe. And Kobe has said that if he did go to college, he was going to play for Coach K. He was going to go to Duke University. Later in their careers, they got the opportunity to play together, and they represented us, Team USA, in the Olympics. During that time, Coach K said one of the things he admired most about Kobe, it wasn't his God-blessed DNA and genetics, and it wasn't just his work ethic. That's what a lot of us. He said more importantly, he loved and he admired that Kobe loved the process. And in basketball, process is practice. I practice enough, I'm going to win some games. So here's some marketing examples as we get into the marketing component. Front-end offers, FEOs, 21-day quick starts, Fit in 42, 30 days to a new you. What these are is when you're going to have people come into your facility at a low barrier to entry, typically discounted 30, 40% of what a membership may cost to come into your facility. And also, more importantly, you're going to have a low commitment of time. We all think people are scared to give you their money. People are scared to give you their time. So what this allows them to do is come in and get exposed to your culture, everything that you have to offer. Let them start to see some results and let them see and buy into your system. In the marketing world, we call that getting sticky. You know, and what I was telling you earlier about, you're actually starting to change your behavior, getting their gym clothes, coming to your facility. You're gradually starting to change without this long, daunting commitment that they have to join you for 6 months or for a year. Challenges and transformation contests. I think we've all seen these. I will go on the record. I do think this is a bit of a saturated market right now. If you're trying to show and identify yourself being slightly different, I think that, that's not going to happen right now. But if I was opening a facility, I definitely would do these because there's a lot of value to that. You're literally incentivizing people to come in, follow your protocol, and you're pretty much telling them they're going to get results. They're going to transform their body, and you're incentivizing them by having a prize. I mean, cash works great. If it's Super Bowl time, offer a big screen TV, an iPad, an Apple Watch. These things work well. Again, if you want to differentiate yourself in the market right now, I would say, again, a little bit of saturated. We're almost hitting a tipping point with that, but still effective. Member referral contests. Again, the people who you're drafting their credit cards every month, the people who are writing you a check, who are coming to you, the people who love you, who better than to rave about you than your current members? And so, again, you need to incentivize them and have some competition of who could bring in the most referrals that month. Give a $100, $200 gift card. All right? Incentivize these people who can go, because hearing it from them has a lot more credibility than hearing it from you. Charity workouts. These are amazing. This is when you get the opportunity to go outside your sphere of people. Right? In marketing, I'll say it's all about the touches. right? How many connections can you make with people, right? It just becomes a numbers game. The more people I can interact with, the more likelihood, the chances I can get more people, at least some type of leads to come in and give me the opportunity to sit and chat with them. But now, this is when you can tap into your base of your current members in your facility, all right, and ask them is there a charity that someone's involved with. We did one in our studio. We rescued our puppy from a pit bull rescue years ago. We went to the local charity. We closed our studio for traditional workouts, and for that day, we had workouts every hour. People could come in and try our small group workouts. And we asked on this day that we recommended a donation, and we did a dollar-for-dollar match. Now, you can determine if you want to match or if just the money raised from people coming in, but we had the opportunity of people coming into our studio all throughout the day to support the charity, have fun, get a sweat, and get exposed, and give us, and me and my team, the opportunity to sizzle them. So again, outside a group that normally would not have come into our facility. So charity workouts can really work well. I recommend something to put on a marketing calendar, maybe twice a year. Reactivation campaigns. I have a huge saying in our studio, life happens, right? We all believe, right? I know I do, that the world revolves, the universe revolves around my studio and my world. Life happens. People get married, people get divorced. People get sick. People lose their jobs. Things happen. People get promoted. Work schedules change. And sometimes people will stop using your services, not for that they didn't receive a good benefit, not that they didn't think they had value in your services. Life happens. So, out of sight, out of mind, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days down the road, it's a good opportunity for you to reach out to these people. Send them a gift card. Things may have settled. The dust, smoke may have cleared. Get them to come back into your facility. Because they didn't leave you necessarily because they didn't think they had value. Just, again, life happens. Gift cards, as I said, kind of piggybacking on that last one. So gift cards are a great ROI, return on investment. This is a gift card we use at our studio, professionally done, raised lettering. And I say ROI because I can get, and there's a few different vendors out in the market that provide this service. I can get 1,000 gift cards like this for about $400 that we can do in direct mailings, that we can send and have raffles, okay, that we can offer, again, reactivation campaigns. How about I like to give them to our members, a birthday gift. Anniversaries. Someone's been coming to you 3 times a week for a year. That should be celebrated. So, we'll send these things out to them. Obviously, during the holidays coming up, great opportunity, too. You can sell them in your studio. People can go and give them out to friends. So gift cards are great. Now, I couldn't get out of marketing if I didn't touch on social media. Gentleman earlier did a great job with that. I have, again, one of my key strategies, though, I will talk to you about. And again, we have Twitter, Snapchat, and I would put blogs under this. Pick one social media and make it really good. I think one of the struggles and challenges that people deal with, they try to be a little bit of everything, right? Now, I will say, if you're just opening up a studio, you may initially, and I say initially up to 3-6 months, have to do 2 or 3. But as soon as you have a base of some members, you should survey your people and find out where they're going. We did that. We were open 6 months. We sent out some simple surveys, little 3-question. What is your choice of social media? Real quick, very simple. And they checked off. 87% of our people use Facebook. Guess what we spend our time on? Facebook. I have an older demographic. They're not doing Instagram. We had Instagram. We just didn't work to people coming through our door. So, for some people, if you have a younger demographic, things like that, find out where your people are going and let that be your energies. But again, content is king. I think that gets understated. It's gotta be good content. And make sure, if you're gonna do an exercise of the week, post it the same time every week. You don't need to be sporadic with that stuff. That's when you get sporadic results, okay? All right, let's hit our second objective, finances and analytics. I think this is really, really critical. Any Shark Tank fans? Anybody like Shark Tank? Am I like the only weird, geeky guy? I'd love. I get some great lessons on business when I watch it like that, and you see those happy faces up there. Again, for those of you who don't watch the show, you get the opportunity to pitch your business and get an investor from one of these people that kind of like venture capitalists, and they come in, be a partner in your business. Again, I love those smiling faces. But the gentleman in the middle, front and center, Mr. Kevin O'Leary, runs a prominent hedge fund. He's gone on record. He had an interview on CNBC, and he said he eviscerates. It's a reality show, so they got to have a little drama there, entertainment there for you. But he eviscerates people on the show when they don't know their numbers. And you can literally watch the body language of each one of them when they start just asking you, how much do you think a lead is worth to you? And they start asking you some things about that, because how can you run a business and really not know your numbers? And a lot of people are very random. They're guessing with that stuff. Numbers will allow you to take the emotion out of things and make sound judgment, because the numbers are going to dictate that. You're not going in a gut. I'm from Las Vegas, so again, you see a lot of that people at the tables, and that's like the difference between like the weekend, party guy, and like the real professional gamblers. There's logic and probability, and they know. It's knowing what the numbers are going to say. In our studio, an average member spends $299 a month. We've done our surveys, and we track our numbers. Our average person is staying 2 years. Why? We're just over 2 years open. I'm proud of that. We have a really high retention rate. So average member is spending $7,176 in our studio. This is for semi-private training. So going back to that gift card I showed you guys, is it worth me sending out and giving someone a $100 gift card to come into our studio? Because when I look at them, I'm looking at the prospect of someone that I could collect over $7,000 over a 2-year period. But if I didn't know my numbers, that may sound like a lot. If I just said 100, someone would say, wow, you're going to give someone $100. To me, I'll take that return on investment every day, twice on Sunday. You need to look at them as an investment. As I said, again, probability takes all the emotion out of it. It's just when you know your numbers, probability is a measure of the likelihood that an event will occur. And this is just Wikipedia's definition of it, but it really does. A lot of people are guessing, and they don't know, they have no direction when they're looking at their numbers. Here are some prominent numbers you can track in your small business. You can add to these. I would recommend you can customize them to yourself. But again, revenue you're collecting per session. If you have team, if you have small group, you have private, obviously what you're collecting per session is going to differentiate what you're collecting from that person monthly, annually. Your revenue in your facility, what you're collecting daily, weekly, monthly, right? Leads, you should be calibrating again, weekly and monthly. Leads being, again, phone inquiries, email inquiries, people walking in, member referrals. These all go in that bucket of leads. Because a lot of people tell you, if I want to get 5 members, I just kind of reverse engineer it. 5 members, I may have to sit down and have 8 success sessions, which means I may have to have 20 people as lead generators, because it's going to, after 20 people, I'll get 8 to come in and actually we can sit and strategize, and I can give them a blueprint. And then I can close, and I'll get 5 people that may try our FEO. So you got to reverse engineer, but again, I need to track how many leads am I getting, right? Weekly success sessions. Another thing, when you track your numbers, it lets you know what you're good at. It lets you know where you need to work at, all right? So let's go back to that example I just gave you. If I've got 8 people coming in a course in a month that I'm sitting down for a strategy session, a success session, we're going to map out a blueprint, how I can get them to where they want to be. They came with that goal. I'm starting the process for them, right? And if I only get 2 people out of the 8, maybe I need to go back and look how, during my success session, maybe I'm doing too much of this and not enough listening, okay? FEOs, that I mentioned, FEOs are a great thing because, again, low risk, right? You should not be pressuring someone in there. As we know in the business industry, cash flow, we're all about memberships. It's definitely a direction. If you're not doing that, if you're just doing sessions, I strongly recommend trying to go to somewhat of a more membership base. But you got to give people the opportunity to come in and kind of kick the tires. And I'm not just saying one free workout. What I always tell people, really, are you exposed to everything I can do for you in an hour in my studio? You're really not. I want you to try. I have 3 different coaches, so it's 4 different coaches. We have multiple different types of workouts. Sandbag, kettlebell, TRX. We have HIIT-style workouts, right? We have our strengthening. Right? I mean, can you really come in and really get a full vibe of that, see our different members in one session? So an FEO is a great opportunity, but you need to track those, right? And then from there, sales, or how you can, sales are converting those FEO people, those front-end offers, into sales. Upgrades, downgrades. People will typically take the path of least resistance. If you have multiple different types of memberships available, they'll come in with the most inexpensive one. But that's not a bad thing. Because again, if you can get results, you should be able to hopefully get people in there buying into your culture that you can possibly upgrade them, right? Downgrades, because they do happen, and I can let you know things you may have to address in your business. Membership terminations, and obviously freezes, illnesses, and things like that. Just some key numbers that you should be tracking and looking and analyzing these things, letting you know what you're doing well, and where you need to work on. Operations. Many small business owners will tell you they take a huge bump in growth in their business when they start to embrace operations. Okay? It takes, again, the randomness out of it. It makes it more systematic. And I'm going to tell you, and I've had this discussion with other people, I'm a guy, I love training people. I'm still on my training floor. So my end goal isn't to just create operations to get off my training floor. Right? I still, again, but what it does, it created a system that I can teach to my team to duplicate and leverage myself. For some people, that's their end result. That's fine. Again, I'm going to use the Vegas analogies. There's different type of restaurants. You have the celebrity chef, and you have some where it's the restaurant. There's different ways, and they're both successful. Different formulas, but both work very well. But again, operations let you become more systematic about it, very strategic. Another one of these key strategies, write this down. This is so valuable. Run your business like a franchise. Why am I saying that? Based on this key data, the Bureau of Labor and Small Business Administration, they got some statistics. Now, these numbers are based up to 2015. Okay, so up to 2015, independently owned small businesses that are opened, only 70% are still open after 2 years. 30% go out of business. After 5 years, it's down to 50%. So when it's time to renew that lease, a lot of people don't renew that lease. Okay, by 10 years, it's down to 30%. So within 10 years, only 30% of small independently owned businesses are still open. Conversely, the International Franchise Association's got some data. After 5 years in the franchise, and this is not just our fitness world, I'm talking franchises in general, 95% is still open after 5 years. 95 compared to 50%. Guys, that's a swing of 45%. The franchises drop to 91% after 7 years. So that's why you see a lot of people enter buying franchises. If you go purchase Entrepreneur Magazine now, it's almost like a sales ad just for buying a franchise. But why? Why, again, these franchises working? Because they're all about systems and resources. This gentleman's a client of mine, one of our members at our studio, Mr. Shazad Gill. This gentleman owns 40 Jack in the Box and fuzzy restaurants. I know, you didn't think you were going to hear Jack in the Box at an NSCA conference. But, very successful between the Vegas and the Dallas area. And we get into conversations discussing similarities in our business. His widget is to provide an inexpensive meal quickly. Our widget is to provide a workout. But we get into onboarding of staff, customer service, training of staff. We get into, so many different things. You'd be surprised that are very similar. I know he's peddler of poison and buttery jacks and all that jazz. But again, running a business, cost of uniforms, how much you're going to spend on that from your gross annual revenues and things like that. There's a lot of similarities. So if you run it with that mindset, there's a much higher likelihood you're going to have some success. This is our operations manual that we have at the studio. We are actually in the process of doing our third one. I would recommend everybody should have an operations manual. And this manual for us, you could literally run our studio. It has from the temperature we set, the way that we open up, from the music that's played, from the way we orientate our members, to the way we answer the phones, to our uniform. So it's not just for our trainers, for our operations, everything that's done in there. Our coaches are required to know over 275 exercises. Every one of those exercises are in there. We have a whole intern program we take them through. So everything we do in there, it's pretty much, that's their Bible, and we update it. I'm constantly adding, taking things out. This doesn't work well. We need to improve this, right? Because you're always trying to get better. So every year we're adding new movements, as we all know, right? We don't probably train someone now like we did 5 years ago. So we'll be adding new things, new routines. We may find a better way to do our warm-up. So all these things are put into our mat. I mean, this is something you can put together at Kinko's, guys. We're not writing this great American novel and print these up. But what it does is, again, it allows people to get away from the thought process and your staff to execute. And again, it just keeps everything very systematic. I recommend everybody should have one, and you should always be improving it. If your gym's open and you don't need to improve your operations manual because your business is perfect, awesome. Email me because I'd love to come watch your business because I love to watch perfection. So you'll see Fortune 500 companies updating their operation manuals because there's always a better way. There's always a better way. Tony Robbins has a great quote here: complexity is the enemy of execution. So when we get into systems and strategies, sometimes when people, they have a system in place, how we're going to do our sales and orientation, a warm-up, and when it doesn't go right, people look at the team member, the staff, the employee. I question you to look at your system. You may need to look at that. That may not be the correct system. The U.S. military does an amazing job with their systems that they have in place. But I'm going to tell you, it's a fine line. Mr. Reed Hastings, he's the current CEO of Netflix. Before Netflix, he had a company he started called Purify Software, which he sold for $750 million. That gave him the seed money to start Netflix. And he talks about mistakes he made with the first company that he learned that he's not doing now at Netflix. And one of them was he believed he dummied down, it was a software company, he dummied down his system so much he was attracting a certain type of employee. And when he was starting Netflix, even when they first started with the mailing, the DVDs, and that whole jazz when they first came out, he knew it was in their business model that streaming was the future. He gets into that, it's been documented in interviews, and he says he even knew they wanted to get into producing content and actually producing series and things like that. But he needed a different type of employee. He needed someone who could pivot, and he needed someone that could learn. And he said, I can't have that same type of person. So be careful with that, too, with the systems, because if you make them too simplified, you're going to attract a certain type of person. And if you want to have more complex systems, you guys hopefully see where I'm going with this. So be very careful with that. All right, sales. There have been some great people today have spoken about sales, and I'm going to spend probably the least amount of time talking about sales because it's my opinion and my personal opinion that if you spend your time working on your marketing, knowing your numbers, getting into your operations, and as I'll get into in a little while, teaching your team and developing a good team, your sales really becomes an opportunity for you to sit with people and find out what they want and just plugging them in to the right service you have to offer. At that point in time, when you have those other things in alignment, sales become very easy. Like people have said, a lot of people are intimidated about sales. Sales is an opportunity to find out just what somebody wants. But when you have those other things in order, it's a lot easy. Oh, I would say if you can hold on to that question, because I know I'm going to finish up with a little time left over, so I'll give you about 2-3 minutes, so we'll get into that, man. So hold that for me. I definitely want to hear that. But sales typically, again, if you do those other things, because most of us, we do marketing and sales. A lot of people don't address the other things. And you'll see sales become a lot easier, because then at that point, you're just trying to help people. And you're just finding out as a small group team exactly what their needs are. But I will touch into it. Another one of our strategies here. This is Mr. Reid Hoffman. He was one of the original founders of PayPal. Now he runs a big hedge fund in Silicon Valley. Many people call him an oracle in Silicon Valley. And he was recently interviewed. Tim Ferriss did an interview with him, and he talks about how your prospects you need to treat like a venture capitalist. And I really agree with that. And it's going to go back to, and I'm going to give you this analogy that when someone's coming to you, right, and they're looking to invest in your business, into your gym, thank you, that's kind of what they call in business world your due diligence. And for us, that's a success session. That's your consult. That's sitting down. They're doing their due diligence. Here's the outcome. For him, it's getting a return on his money. For someone else, it's losing 30 pounds. So you're going to sit down and tell them how you're going to be able to do that. And in the business world, they'll tell you that initial offering, right, they'll give them some funding, but it's never the big hit, right? They're giving them to kind of see what they're going to do with this initial round of funding. For many of us, that can be that FEO, that front-end offer. Right? Low risk, like we said, low time commitment. Let me see you start to give me some type of return on what you've kind of guaranteed or promised you can do. And then, in the investment in the business world, you'll see it's usually that second round of funding because now that's when you can convert someone to a member. If you kind of switch it in your mind like that, right? Give someone that opportunity to come in, start to see a return, and going back to the numbers that I told you guys about earlier, looking at tracking your numbers, I know what a member's worth to me. So I'm going to treat them like an investment. Okay? All right, so I'm going to get into here and kind of wrap up one of my personal favorites, employee development. I think this is very lacking in our industry, and I'm really championing the cause for this. This is something that I think as an industry, we do a poor job. I think as a studio, as a gym, as a facility owner, a lot of people bring coaches, trainers onto their team. They expect them to have the answers. And when they're not good, they're like, that's just not a good trainer. They expect a weekend like this. Some people expect the trainer to take the initiative to go and do on their own. And I think there's a lot of flaws with that mindset. In anything, let's get outside the fitness world. You come on companies, a lot of companies pride themselves on their training of their teams and their staffs, and how long it takes to really onboard and bring somebody on. And the more complex the system, guys, listen to some of these talks. This is complex, some of the things we're trying to teach. This is not something you just plug someone, shadow me on the floor for a day or two, and you're ready to go off and run. So I think this is really neglected in our business is the employee development part of bringing on your team. And I will tell you, it can be one of your biggest returns as far as an investment. This handsome gentleman up here. Anybody know who this is? Just yell it out if you do. Curious. This is Rick Rubin. All right, so Rick Rubin, this gentleman, MTV said this man is the most influential music producer the last 20 years. In 2007, Time magazine listed him in their top 100 most influential people, not just music, most influential people. This guy helped usher in with Russell Simmons, hip-hop music, with producing LL Cool J and Run DMC. But he's also produced Slayer and Metallica, and he also produced Adele album 21. So this guy's just got an ear for music. And when he was interviewed, he talked about saying that they're like, what makes you so good at what you're able to do? Like, how do you pull that off? And he says, my ability, my superpower, is my ability to bring up people's best traits. As a leader, as a owner, as a manager of others, that should be your goal with your staff, to really make them good and to bring out their best traits. Communications, listening to people, programs. That should be your goal. To think you're going to hire someone, just plug them in, and they're going to be a rock star, that goes back, that's just gambling, right? You're hoping, right? And we all, I've got those questions in the interview process, and we have a whole intern program, but it's our job to train people and to coach them up, just like we coach up our members. I always tell it to people, a beautiful day for me is coaching my team and coaching people on my gym floor, right? So guys, we need to mentor, teach, and lead your staff. That's what's important, all right? This is something that's really neglected. And I tell you that, as I say, in this world, as you grow and learn to leverage the time of others in your business, your team's going to have a direct effect on your culture. All right? So you want them, if you want to magnify and touch more people, you need to get what you're trying to get across into your team. You have to work with them. You should really be thinking to yourself, how much time are you spending with them daily, weekly, monthly? Right? You should be always coaching up your team. And as I said, out of the 5 things, the 5 components, I think, of running a business, marketing, finance, operations, sales, employee development, you'll get your biggest return on time you spend coaching up your team. Your biggest return. A few books I want to recommend. Mr. Jack Welch, a lot of people, ex-CEO of GE, will say it's one of the best managers of people in the last 30 years. His book, Winning, they use it at Wharton Business School. He's got a great quote, too. The art of leading comes down to one thing, facing reality and then acting decisively and quickly on that reality. As a small business owner, you do have that opportunity. You can pivot pretty quickly, but you have to react and you have to take action. Another great book, High Altitude Leadership. It talks about these guys who, when they take people out in these summits, on some of the highest mountains and peaks throughout the world, and again, when they have to make decisions that are life or death, in our world, life or death can be staying in business or closing. But again, having to react, and some of the great leadership lessons in that book, I strongly recommend. Guys, I had a video, but we're having technical problems, so I'm not going to have that opportunity to show you the video. But before I close, any questions? Because we have a few minutes. Any questions? Not at all. That's awesome. Your personality, I can already say, is going to be a lot. Oh, just repeat the question. So you were saying, and I'll just say it for you so people can hear, by having systems in place and having scripted workouts and program design, you're saying you're wondering if someone is going to lose that little bit of creativity. an initiative going on there. My response to that is that your personality is your personality, right? So if I'm going to have this program, the joke you may have, the compassion you have, you're going to still be you, right? But we're all, because I can tell you right now, a lot of us, I think the higher up you get in training, a lot of us are all doing the same thing. Push, pull, hinge, squat, things like that. You may have different cues and a slightly different delivery system. So people sometimes think it's this creativity component of it. But like I said, be you, be that. But that widget, when I go into what makes you go back to a restaurant? I ask you that. Consistency of food, right? You don't want to go one time the meal was bad and one time it was amazing. You want to have consistency. So having a system is going to allow you to be consistent with the product that you're putting out there. So I would say I don't think that takes away from your creativity at all. Not at all. That's a great question. Any other questions? Guys, thank you very much. That's my email there at the top, Doug at J&D Fitness. I answer emails. Thank you.